The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the gravel road into a river of mud that sucked at Anthony's boots with every desperate step. He was 19, heart pounding wilder than the storm, when his father's truck screeched to a halt at the edge of the endless Wyoming pines, those unforgiving sentinels of the Bighorn National Forest. "You're dead to me, boy," Harlan spat, eyes cold as the steel barrel of the rifle he'd once taught Anthony to shoot, shoving him out into the deluge with nothing but the clothes on his back and a backpack stuffed with lies that would unravel everything. As the taillights vanished into the night, Anthony collapsed against a tree, the weight of abandonment crashing harder than the thunder. Whispering the truth his father couldn't stomach, he loved a man. And that love was the spark that would one day burn down the empire of deceit Harlan had built. Anthony's breath came in ragged gasps, the cold seeping into his bones like the chill of his father's final words. He'd known this reckoning was coming ever since that stolen kiss behind the barn with Jake. The ranch hand who'd seen the loneliness in his eyes and matched it with a tenderness that made Anthony feel alive for the first time. Harlan had walked in on them, face twisting from shock to rage in the span of a heartbeat. Bellowing scriptures from a Bible he only cracked open on Sundays to justify his iron-fisted rule over their sprawling cattle ranch in the shadow of the Rockies. "This ain't natural. You're a goddamn abomination." The words had flown like bullets, each one lodging deeper than the last, until Harlan bundled him into the truck under the pretense of a talk, only to drive him deeper into the wilds, miles from the nearest trailhead, convinced a night in the elements would straighten him out or break him for good. But Anthony wasn't breaking, not yet. He clawed his way to his feet, the rain blurring his vision, and fumbled for the backpack Harlan had tossed after him like an afterthought. Inside, a half-empty water bottle, a pocket knife, a crumpled pack of jerky, and his phone dead. Of course. No signal out here anyway. The forest loomed, a black wall of whispering needles and hidden roots. But staying on the road meant risking Harlan's return. Or worse, nothing at all. He plunged into the underbrush, branches whipping his face like accusations, his mind racing with fragments of survival shows he'd binge-watched in secret, dreaming of escapes from a life that never fit. Hours blurred into a haze of slips and stumbles, his flannel soaked through, until exhaustion forced him to huddle under a fallen log, shivering as wolves howled in the distance, not real ones. He told himself, just the wind playing tricks. But the fear gnawed anyway. Dawn crept in gray and reluctant, painting the canopy in muted silvers. Anthony's body ached, every muscle screaming from the cold night's grip. But hunger sharpened his senses like a blade. He sliced open a jerky strip with trembling hands, chewing mechanically while scanning the terrain. The Bighorn wasn't just pretty postcard views. It was a beast that claimed lives yearly hikers lost. Hunters mauled, fools who thought they could conquer it without respect. His father had drilled that into him during endless hunting trips. Harlan's voice booming over the crack of gunfire. Nature don't forgive weakness. Son, you face it head on, or it eats you alive. Irony twisted in Anthony's gut like a knife. The man who'd preached resilience was the one who'd cast him out to die. He pressed on, using the rising sun to orient himself eastward, toward what he prayed was the highway. Birds chattered overhead, mocking his clumsiness as he tripped over exposed roots. But each fall fueled a quiet fury. Jake's face flashed in his mind, those warm brown eyes, the calloused hand brushing his cheek, the whispered, "I got you," that had cracked open Anthony's guarded heart. They'd hidden it for months. Stolen moments in the hayloft where the world felt kind. But Harlan's discovery had shattered that fragile sanctuary. "You'll ruin us," his father had snarled. But Anthony wondered now if it was fear of scandal, not sin, that drove the blade. Harlan's reputation as the upright rancher, pillar of their small-town church, couldn't withstand a son like him. By midday, Thirst clawed at his throat worse than the branches tearing his skin. He stumbled upon a trickle of a stream, crystal clear water bubbling over mossy stones, and dropped to his knees, gulping until his stomach sloshed. It tasted like life, metallic and pure, washing away the salt of tears he hadn't realized were falling. Refreshed, he fashioned a crude shelter from pine boughs and his jacket, curling up as fatigue pulled him under. Dreams came feverish, Harlan's belt cracking against his back for lesser offenses. His mother's soft sobs from the kitchen after, her eyes pleading be strong. Tony, before cancer stole her away 2 years back. She'd been the buffer, the one who saw his quiet sketches of men and notebooks hidden under his mattress, who hugged him tighter when he flinched from his father's rough affections. Waking to twilight, Anthony's resolve hardened. He couldn't die out here not for loving who he loved. He carved a walking stick from a sturdy branch, marking trees with his knife to avoid circling back, and foraged berries he half remembered as safe from a library book. Night fell again, stars piercing the canopy like distant promises, and he whispered Jake's name to the void, vowing to find his way home. But home wasn't the ranch anymore. It was the truth he'd carry, sharp as flint, ready to ignite. Days bled into one another, a rhythm of pain and persistence. Anthony's hands blistered from gripping roots to climb ravines. His lips cracked from rationing sips. But he adapted, learning the forest's language, the rustle of deer in the brush, the warning cry of ravens circling a fresh kill. He speared a trout once, clumsy but triumphant, roasting it over a fire sparked from dry tinder and sheer will. The smoky flesh of victory sweeter than any steak at Harlan's table. Loneliness was the real predator, though, creeping in during quiet hours when memories ambushed him, prom night alone because no girl felt right. The ache of watching classmates pair off while he buried his desires in ranch chores. Jake had changed that. A summer hire with an easy laugh and scars from his own rodeo days. Their connection sparking over shared silences by the fire pit. One evening, as Anthony nursed a twisted ankle from a misstep, he heard voices human, faint but real, carried on the wind. Panic surged. Was it rescuers or Harlan come to finish the job? He hobbled toward the sound, heart hammering, until figures emerged through the trees, 2 men in ranger gear, flashlights sweeping the gloom. "Hey, you out here alone?" one called, voice gruff but kind. Anthony staggered forward, words tumbling out in a rush. The truck, the storm, his father's name. The rangers exchanged glances, one radioing for evac while the other wrapped him in a thermal blanket. "You're safe now, kid," he said, and for the first time in a week, Anthony believed it. The helicopter ride blurred into hospital lights and questions, social services swooping in like hawks. Anthony lay in a sterile bed, for dripping warmth into his veins, recounting the nightmare to a wide-eyed caseworker who promised investigations. Harlan's denial came swift via phone. Boy ran off, confused after a fight. He's always been troubled, but Anthony held firm, his voice steady despite the tremor. Jake arrived that night, slipping past security with wild eyes and a bouquet of wildflowers clutched like a lifeline. "I thought I'd lost you," he choked, collapsing beside the bed, their hands intertwining under the sheets. A silent vow amid the beeps of monitors. Recovery was slow, body mending faster than spirit. Anthony stayed with Jake's family in Cody, a modest trailer on the outskirts where Jake's mom baked pies and his dad grunted approvals over coffee, their acceptance a balm on wounds still raw. They talked for hours under starlit skies, Jake sharing his own closet days in Texas, the beatings that drove him north. Love bloomed tentative at first, kisses tasting of relief, but deepened into something fierce, a partnership forged in fire. Anthony enrolled in community college, studying environmental science. Ironic. given the wilds that nearly claimed him, channeling his survival into purpose. Volunteering with LGBTQ youth groups where his story became a beacon. Yet Harlan's shadow lingered. Letters arrived. Scrawled apologies laced with conditions. Come home. Repent. And we'll forget this phase. Anthony burned them. Ashes scattering like old sins. But doubt whispered, what if Mother was watching? Disappointed, Jake grounded him. Their nights tangled in sheets, a reminder of worth beyond blood. One crisp fall day, news hit. Harlan's ranch teetering on bankruptcy. Rumors of embezzled church funds swirling like dust devils. Anthony's gut twisted. Was this the lie? The hypocrisy his father feared exposure for? The pieces clicked during a late-night call from an old ranch hand. Voice hushed. Your pa's been skimming for years. Tony funds meant for the orphan's home. That troubled talk. Covering his tracks. Rage ignited. Pure and purifying. Anthony, now 21. Leaner and sharper from trail runs with Jake. Knew it was time. We go back. He told his lover over dawn coffee. I steal. Jake nodded. Hands squeezing his. Together. They drove south in Jake's battered pickup. The Rockies unfolding like an old wound reopening. Sheridan greeted them with unchanged Main Street. But whispers followed the prodigal son. The scandal. Harlan's spread looked ragged. Fences sagging. Cattle thin. Anthony strode up the porch steps unannounced. Jake at his side. Facing the man who'd birthed him in body, if not spirit. I'm here for the truth. Not forgiveness. He said, voice echoing the storm that had birthed his rebirth. Harlan's face crumpled. Denial fracturing under Anthony's gaze. You don't understand the pressure. The expectations. But Anthony cut him off, laying out the ledgers he'd obtained from the whistleblower. Numbers damning as sin. The church elders arrived by evening, summoned by anonymous tips. Their outrage a mirror to Harlan's old fire. As confessions spilled years of greed, masked by piety, the ranch's heart cracked open, revealing rot beneath the righteousness. In the aftermath, Anthony didn't gloat. He stood with Jake in the corral, watching Harlan led away in cuffs. Not with triumph, but sorrow for the man who'd chosen lies over love. You could have chosen better, he murmured to the empty air, then turned to his partner, pulling him close under the vast Wyoming sky. Forgiveness wasn't absolution. It was freedom. The wild had taught him that strength born of breaking. Love the root that held firm. And in Jake's arms, Anthony finally came home. The drive back to Cody felt lighter. The weight of unspoken accusations lifted like fog burning off the peaks. But Anthony's mind churned with the echoes of that confrontation. Harlan's eyes, once thunderclouds of authority, had pleaded in the end not for mercy, but understanding. A son's grace he hadn't earned. Jake drove with one hand on the wheel, the other tracing lazy circles on Anthony's knee. A silent anchor in the sea of what-ifs. You did good, Tony, he said softly as they crossed the state line. The radio humming a country ballad about lost roads found. Anthony leaned his head against the window, watching pronghorn dart across the plains. Their grace a reminder that survival wasn't just enduring. It was reclaiming the narrative. Back in their trailer, life resumed its gentle cadence. Anthony buried himself in classes, diagramming ecosystems on graph paper late into the night. Jake quizzing him over takeout burgers with that lopsided grin that still made his pulse stutter. Their love had evolved too. From frantic reunions to quiet intimacy as mornings tangled in sheets. Coffee brewed strong. Plans whispered for a future beyond the horizon. Yet the call came a week later. Shattering the peace, the district attorney. Voice clipped. Requesting Anthony's testimony for Harlan's trial. Your account could seal it. Son. Embezzlement. Fraud, it's bigger than one man. Anthony paced the kitchen, phone hot against his ear. Jake watching from the couch with concern etching his features. Testify. Drag the family's filth into open court, where reporters would feast on the gay son versus pious father angle, twisting his pain into tabloid fodder. Or stay silent. Let karma's slow grind handle the rest, preserving what scraps of dignity remained. I need time, he told the DA, hanging up to find Jake's arms around him. Solid and sure. Whatever you choose. I'm here, Jake murmured, lips brushing his temple. That night, they made love slow and deliberate, bodies mapping forgiveness onto skin, chasing away the ghosts with gasps and promises. The decision crystallized during a hike in the Shadow Mountains. Autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle memories. Anthony crested a ridge, wind whipping his hair, and saw a vast tapestry of earth below, scarred by floods and fires yet blooming anew. Harlan's lies had poisoned one patch, but the whole endured. I have to speak, he told Jake, voice carried away on the gusts. Not for revenge for the kids he stole from. For Mom, who believed in his goodness till the end. Jake pulled him into a fierce hug, their silhouettes etched against the amber sunset. Two men bound by more than chance. Trial day dawned bitter cold. Sheridan Courthouse, a squat brick fortress under iron skies. Anthony arrived early. Suit borrowed from Jake's dad hanging loose on his frame. Nerves jangling like loose change. The gallery buzzed church ladies in pearls clutching hankies. Ranchers in Stetsons shifting uncomfortably. A smattering of protesters waving signs that blurred, repent. With love wins. Jake squeezed his hand in the hallway, thumb stroking his knuckles. You're stronger than he ever was. Then the bailiff called, and Anthony stepped into the fray. Harlan sat at the defense table, diminished in orange jumpsuit, eyes locking on his son with a mix of defiance and despair. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically, diverted funds from the youth shelter, falsified books to fund expansions that lined Harlan's pockets, all while preaching charity from the pulpit. Witnesses piled on the accountant with trembling ledgers. The shelter director with tear-streaked cheeks recounting closed doors for at-risk teens. Anthony's turn came like a thunderclap, sworn in under the flag's unblinking eye. Tell us about the night you left home, Mr. Hale. The prosecutor prompted, voice steady. Anthony gripped the stand, words flowing clear and unyielding, the truck's roar, the rain's lash. Harlan's venom spat like gospel. Gasps rippled through the room as he detailed the abandonment. Not as victimhood, but catalyzed the wilds that stripped him bare, revealing a core Harlan couldn't touch. He called me broken for loving a man, Anthony said, voice cracking just once. But his real sin was the lies he told to hide his own thefts. I survived to prove him wrong, not just about me, but everything. Cross-examination was Harlan's lawyer. Slick as oil. Probing for cracks. Isn't it possible, Mr. Hale, that your lifestyle choices strained family ties? Anthony met the man's gaze, unflinching. My love for Jake saved me. My father's greed destroyed him. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Judge banging gavel for order. But the seed was planted doubt in Harlan's facade. Sympathy shifting tides. Recess brought Jake in the witness room, sandwich in hand. Easy chatter to ease the knot in Anthony's chest. Heard the buzz out there, a hero. Babe. Anthony laughed. Brittle but real. Pulling him close for a stolen kiss that tasted of mustard and hope. The afternoon dragged with character witnesses for Harlan neighbors swearing his generosity. Deacons fumbling excuses, but the damage was done. Closing arguments painted Harlan as wolf in shepherd's clothing. Anthony the Lamb returned as lion. Verdict came swift, guilty on all counts. 5 years plus restitution. Harlan's head bowed as sentence dropped. No glance back at the son he'd forged in fire. Anthony walked out into blinding sun. Jake's arm around his waist. Free air filling lungs like absolution. Reporters swarmed. Mike's thrusting. But he waved them off with a quiet, "It's over." In the truck, tears came hot and unbidden. Jake pulling over to hold him through the sobs not of loss, but release. That evening, they celebrated low-key at a dive bar in Powell. Beers clinking to new chapters. Anthony sketched on a napkin a phoenix rising from ranch dust. Jake's hand over his. Inking flames. Word spread. Invitations followed for speaking gigs at Pride events. His story a lifeline for queer kids in Bible Belt shadows. Harlan wrote from prison. Letters contrite at last. I was afraid of you. Of me. Forgive if you can. Anthony read them by lamplight. Jake dozing beside. And penned replies measured with mercy. Boundaries firm. Winter blanketed Cody in snow. Their love a hearth against the cold. Anthony graduated top of class. Acceptance letter to University of Wyoming clutched like treasure. Jake beaming prouder than any father. They moved to Laramie. A cramped apartment overlooking the plains, where nights were filled with textbooks and tender explorations. Dreams weaving futures untethered. One spring morning, Anthony proposed on a trailhead overlooking the Bighorn, the same wilds that birthed his strength ring, simple silver. Jake's yes, a vow echoing through pines. Years folded like accordions. Anthony teaching environmental advocacy. Jake writing for a conservation outfit. Their home a haven for foster youth seeking refuge. Harlan emerged changed. Grayed and humbled. First visit tentative, coffee on the porch. Silence is heavy, but healing. I'm proud. He rasped finally. Eyes wet. And Anthony believed him. The past a scar. Not shackle. In the end, strength wasn't destruction, but dawn after endless night love's quiet revolution. Rewriting lies into legacies of light. But legacies weren't built in straight lines. They twisted like the Sweetwater River snaking through the Wind River Range, where Anthony and Jake honeymooned that summer, pitching a tent under stars that felt like old friends. The air hummed with crickets' chorus, fire crackling low as they shared stories Anthony's of boyhood dreams stifled by Harlan's expectations. Jake's of rodeo bruises hiding a heart yearning for more than buckle chases. Their bodies moved in sync. Slow dances of rediscovery. Whispers of forever, sealing promises the wild had tested and true. Laramie welcomed them with open skies and bustling campus energy. Anthony's adjunct role a perfect fit lectures on resilience in ecosystems mirroring his own arc. Students leaning in when he shared veiled slices of survival. Nature doesn't discard the outlier, he'd say, projecting slides of adaptive species. It evolves with them. Jake thrived too. His conservation work scouting trails for endangered wolves. Irony not lost on Anthony. The beasts his father feared now guarded by the son he'd cast out. Evenings were sacred dinners of elk stew from Jake's hunts. Laughter over board games. The occasional fight over socks on the floor, dissolving into make-up kisses that left them breathless. Yet echoes persisted. A package arrived one October. Postmarked Rollins Harlan's prison art. Crude carvings of horses whittled from soap. Note attached, thought of your mom when I made these. She loved the wild ones. Anthony's chest tightened. Memories flooding, her gentle hands braiding his hair. Stories of her own rebellious youth running off to California before settling for stability. She'd seen the truth in him early, slipping him books on Michelangelo and Whitman. Eyes twinkling with secrets. Love finds its way. Tony Bear, she'd say, hugging fierce. Cancer had stolen her voice, but not her light. Now, holding the carvings, Anthony felt it flicker back. He invited Harlan for Thanksgiving. Against Jake's cautious nod, your call. But boundaries. Yeah. The old man arrived gaunt. Parole granted. In an ill-fitting coat. Eyes darting like a colt spooked. Their home smelled of turkey and pie. Foster kid, Mia 17. Trans. Fresh from a group, home setting the table with wary grace. Dinner was awkward at first. Silences broken by Jake's easy questions about ranch days. Harlan's gruff tales coaxing smiles. Anthony watched. Heart a battlefield, forgive too quick. And wounds reopened. Withhold. And bitterness rooted deep. After pie, Harlan pulled him aside on the porch. Snow dusting rails. I ain't a skin for pity. Just. Thank you for speaking truth. Saved more than me. Anthony nodded. Throat thick. It saved us both. Maybe. No hugs. But a handshake loose palms meeting. Bridge tentative over chasms. Harlan left with Mia's sketchbook in hand. Her drawings of fierce women earning a rare chuckle. Kids got fire. He muttered. And Anthony saw the thaw begin. Spring brought changes, Anthony's book deal. Wild Heart, Surviving Abandonment and Finding Self. Manuscript born from journal scribbles. Agent buzzing about tours. Jake proposed expanding their foster role. Paperwork stacking like cordwood. But joy shadowed by news Mia outed at school. Bruises from backlash. Anthony held her through sobs. Jake brewing tea. Their home a fortress. You're safe here. He promised. Echoing words the forest never gave. They rallied, school meetings. Pride flags in windows. Mia blooming under care. Her art turning pain to power. Summer road trip healed old scars, Yellowstone's geysers steaming like released rage. Bison herds thundering past. Reminders of untamed spirits. One night by Yellowstone Lake. Anthony carved their initials into a lodgepole pine. Jake's laugh warm against his neck. Vandal. He teased. But kissed deep. Lake lapping secrets. Back home. Harlan visited more. Helping Jake mend fences, literal ones first. Metaphors following. Stories emerged, Harlan's own youth. A forbidden crush on a farm boy crushed by his preacher father's wrath. Cycle unbroken till Anthony shattered it. Autumn leaves turned. Mia came out stronger. College-bound with their blessing. Anthony's book launch packed the local bookstore. Harlan in back row. Clapping quiet when readings hit home. Signings followed. Faces like his younger self, scared eyes. Tentative hopes pouring thanks. You gave me words for my silence. One teen said. And Anthony hugged him. Jake's proud gaze across the room a steady star. Winter's grip loosened to spring again. Anthony and Jake adopting officially not blood, but chosen family. Harlan. Remarried to a widow from church. Sent grandkid photos. Awkward but earnest. At a family barbecue. Anthony watched him bounce Mia's art on his knee. Laughter genuine. Past fading like old photographs. Strength. Anthony learned. Was circular, not a line from broken to whole. But ripples expanding. Touching shores unforeseen. In Jake's arms that night. Under quilts stitched with memories. He whispered gratitudetto wilds. To love. To the boy who'd clawed from mud to mountains. The lies were dust. Truth. Eternal bloom. Ripples indeed carried them forward. But not without undercurrents pulling at the seams. Anthony's rising profile drew shadows, online trolls dredging his trial testimony. Headlines twisting abandoned gay son topples father into clickbait venom. Late nights. He'd scroll too long. Vitriol seeping like poison. Jake pulling the laptop away with a firm enough. Their fights sharpened then. Words like brambles, Anthony snapping at perceived pity. Jake retreating to garage, tinkering with truck parts. I'm not fragile. Anthony yelled one stormy evening. Rain lashing windows like old Wyoming nights. Jake's eyes flashed hurt. Never said you were. Just hate seeing you bleed for strangers. Reconciliation came raw. Apologies over cold pizza. Bodies colliding in urgent need to reaffirm. We're in this. Jake growled against his skin. and Anthony clung. Anchors entwined. Therapy followed. A queer-affirming counselor in Fort Collins. Sessions unpacking abandonments hooks Harlan's voice in his head, whispering unworthiness. "You're rewriting the script," the therapist said. And slowly, Anthony did. Journaling affirmations amid sketches of resilient landscapes. Mia's college send-off was a milestone. Cap and gown crisp under June's sun. Anthony and Jake in front row. Harlan surprisingly there. "Ty Askew." Clapping loudest. Her speech nodded to them, family chosen. Not given, tears blurring Anthony's vision. Post-grad parties spilled into their backyard. Bonfire crackling. Stories looping like smoke. Harlan cornered Anthony by the cooler. Beer in hand. "She's something. Like her uncle." Pause. "Heavy. Proud of you, son. For all." Words hung. Simple but seismic. Harlan's gaze holding steadino deflection. Just truth. Anthony clapped his shoulder. "Gruff, thanks, Dad." The title slipping easy. First in years. Jake caught his eye across flames. Not subtle progress. Not perfection. Book tour kicked off fall. Anthony jetting to coast San Francisco Pride panels. New York Lit Fest Jake holding fort. Video calls bridging miles. "Miss your laugh," he'd say. And Anthony's hotel loneliness eased. Back home. Accolades piled, TEDx invite. Documentary nibbles. But fame's flip side lurked exhaustion. Imposter whispers. One Denver signing. A heckler spat, traitor to family values. Jake, in crowd, stood tall. Voice calm, "Nah. He's the bravest I know." Room applauded. Heckler slinking out. Anthony's heart swelling anew. Winter holidays blended traditions, Harlan's tree trimming with Jake's Tex-Mex tamales. Mia home with girlfriend in tow. Shy introductions melting into acceptance. Snowshoeing the medicine bow. Anthony and Jake broke trail. Breaths clouding. Pausing at a overlook for thermos coffee. 10 years since the storm. Jake mused. Arm around waist. Anthony leaned in. Wind tousling hair. Feels like yesterday and forever. Kiss sealed it. Snowflakes on lashes. Time's gift. Spring unearthed buried roots. Estate settlement from Harlan's ranch sale. Funds earmarked for queer youth land trust. Anthony spearheaded. Buying bighorn acreage for a retreat center, cabins for healing hikes. Workshops on identity in wilderness. Groundbreaking drew crowds. Shovel and soil symbolic. Harlan turning first dirt. Full circle. He grunted. And Anthony smiled. Yes. Summer heatwave tested. Anthony mediating donor spats. Jake wrangling crew. One blistering afternoon. Collapse heat stroke sidelining him. Jake's vigil fierce. Cool cloths and worry lines. Recovery brought clarity, balance. Not burnout. They vacationed Tetons. Rafting rapids that mirrored life's tosses. Emerging soaked and laughing. Fall foliage tour. Anthony keynoting conferences. Jake tagging for moral support. A Boston afterparty. Publisher toasting. Led to collaboration, whispers Jake's photos in next book. Wilds captured through his lens. Homebound. They poured over prints. Fingers brushing. Inspiration sparking. Winter's hush brought news, positive test. Not crisis, but creation surrogate journey with Mia's encouragement. Baby due summer. Harlan's reaction. Teary call, Grandpa. Huh. Won't mess it up. Anthony believed. Growth's proof. Spring planting at the retreat. Seeds in earth like hope sown. Anthony's hand on belly swell via scans, shared felt surreal. Jake's on mirroring his. Our wild one. He joked. And Anthony laughed. Future tangible. Strength cycle spun on. Not destroying, but building lies to legacies. Abandonment to abundance. In quiet moments. Anthony traced Jake's sleeping face. Gratitude profound, from mud to this. Love's alchemy. Abundance bloomed literal that summer. Baby Elias arriving with a wail that pierced Laramie's hospital quiet like dawn's first light. Anthony held him first. Tiny fists waving defiance. Jake's tears splashing down as he whispered, "Hey, little man." The room filled Mia cooing. Harlan hovering awkward in the corner. Eyes soft with wonder. "Looks like you, Tony," he said, voice rough. And Anthony nodded, passing the bundle. Watching old hands cradle new life tentative. Bridge strengthening. Paternity leave was a haze of feedings and folds. Anthony and Jake tag-teaming nights. Elias's cries a symphony of need. Sleepless but soaring. They navigated colic storms and gummy smiles. Harlan dropping by with whittled toys. Stories of Anthony's infancy coaxing chuckles. Stubborn from day one, he'd say. Elias gurgling agreement. Mia? Andy fierce. Babysat weekends. Her law school grind balanced by Elias's magic. Retreat center opened fall. Haven wild ribbon cut amid cheers. First guest queer teens from Heartland shadows arriving wide-eyed. Anthony led orientation hikes, sharing his story around campfires. Flames dancing on faces hungry for hope. The wild doesn't judge. It reveals, he'd say. And nods rippled. Bonds forming like roots intertwining. Jake documented. Photos capturing raw joy swimmers in alpine lakes. Stargazers tracing constellations of self. Book 2 brewed. Roots reclaimed. Weaving Elias's arrival with retreat tales. Publisher eager. Writing amid chaos, Elias teething on manuscript pages. Anthony found voice deeper. Vulnerability laced with victory. Tours lighter now. Family anchoring. Trolls faded to white noise. Winter brought challenges. Funding dip for Haven. Donor pulling over controversial optics. Anthony rallied. Grant writing marathons with Jake's coffee runs. Harlan chipping in savings. Owe you this. Approval came spring. Expansion greenlit more cabins. Therapy stables for equine healing. Elias's first steps toddled across retreat meadows. Jake filming. Anthony cheering. Harlan grinning from porch rocker. Get after it, boy. The old man hollered. Elias tumbling into arms. Laughter echoing. Mia's wedding followed. Summer solstice under big top tent. Girlfriend radiant. Anthony walking her aisle. Tears blurring vows of chosen love. Fall harvest festival at Haven. Locals mingling with guests. Harlan manning grill. Stories bridging divides. A teen approached Anthony. Eyes earnest. Your book got me through coming out. Hug fierce. Impact tangible. Ripples real. Winter snows blanketed. Family cabin fever broken by sledding hills. Elias bundled giggles. Jake's proposal for Wolf reintroduction project gained traction. Anthony advocating panels. Their partnership public power. Spring floods threatened retreat trails. Volunteers including Harlan sandbagging. Mudcake triumphs. Elias's second birthday. Cake smeared faces. Anthony toasting. To wild hearts. Summer internships at Haven. Elias helping with tiny shovel. Jake teaching tracking. Book launch packed. Elias on lap signing with scribbles. Fans melting. Fall colors vivid. Anthony reflecting on decades arc abandonment's scar faint. Strength's tattoo bold. Harlan's health scare heart flutter brought clarity. Hospital vigil. Anthony holding hand. We good. Dad. Nod weak, but yes. Winter holidays grand. Elias's wonder at lights. Harlan carving turkey steady. Stories circled fire. Past woven present. Spring renewal. Elias potty trained chaos. Haven's third season bustling. Anthony's TED Talk viral. Invites flooding. But family first. Summer campouts. Elias under stars. Jake's lullabies soft. Adventures just beginning. Anthony murmured. Love's horizon endless. Strength. Not solo summit, but shared trail hand in hand. Through thickets to clearings. From lies destroyed. Truths enduring. Wild and free. Enduring truths faced tempests too. As Elias turned 3. His boundless energy a whirlwind matching Wyoming winds. Anthony chased him through Haven's meadows. Laughter breathless. Jake snapping photos that captured chaos's charm. But beneath, fault lines shifted, Anthony's schedule swelling with speaking gigs. Jake's field work pulling him weeks away. Elias's tantrums echoing unspoken strains. We're drifting. Anthony confessed one rare, quiet night. Elias asleep. Wine loosening tongues. Jake's hand found his across table. Then we steer back. Talk to a couple's counselor queer-friendly. Weekends. Sessions started tentative. Unpacking resents Anthony's guilt over taking spotlight. Jake's ache for undivided attention. Tools emerged, date nights carved sacred. Elias's bedtime rituals shared. Progress showed in small graces. Jake home early for park swings. Anthony logging off for family dinners. Harlan noted. Over coffee. Marriage like ranch and patch fences quick. Wisdom hard won. Appreciated. Elias's preschool plunge brought milestones. Finger paints rainbow splashed. Playdates with diverse tots. Anthony volunteering story hours with his books. One day, a parent cornered him post-read. Heard about your dad, brave. Anthony smiled tight, redirecting to themes of kindness. But later vented to Jake, still stings. Embrace long. Validation enough. Haven expanded. Equine program launching with rescued Mustangs. Therapy sessions bonding guests to beasts mirroring inner wilds. Anthony led first group. A burly ex-Marine sharing closet fractures. Horse nuzzling tentative trust. Tears flowed. Breakthroughs blooming. Impact profound. Fall book tour condensed. Anthony podcasting from home. Elias interviewing with Toy Mike. Viral clip toddlers, daddy strong. Melted feeds. Donations surging for Haven. Jake's Wolf Project film documentary. Premiere local theater packed. Elias wide-eyed at Papa on big screen. Winter storm stranded them cozy. Board games and hot cocoa. Harlan snowed in too. Teaching Elias whittling blunt knife. Patient hands. Gentle. Like lovin', he said. Anthony overhearing. Heart mending further. Spring allergies hit Elias hard. Sniffles to ER scare. Anthony's panic flaring old fears. Jake calm anchor. Doctors deeming mild. But lesson landed. Vulnerability shared lightens load. Mia, now attorney, helped navigate adoption updates for Elias's papers. Full legal weave. Summer family reunion at Bighorn Trailhead anniversary, nod to Origins hiking easy paths. Elias backpacked giggling. Picnic summit. Sandwiches and stories. Harlan recounting Anthony's boy hunts minus barbs. Missed your spirit then. Admission quiet. Healing deep. Fall harvest. Elias, farming Haven Gardens. Tiny hands in dirt. Anthony weeding beside. Book 3 outlined. Family forged. Elias inspiring chapters on chosen kin. Winter holidays. Elias's letter to Santa. More adventures with daddies. Delivered via Chimney Magic. Joy pure. Spring cleanup. Elias planting sunflowers, grow tall like Papa Jake. Anthony beaming. Growth mirrored. Summer camps. Elias mini camper. Bonding with peers. Anthony overseeing. Pride swelling. Fall colors. Family leaf peeping drive. Elias asleep back seat. Jake's hand in Anthony's. This is it. Winter's peace. Elias's first snowman lopsided love. Harlan joining snowball fight. Laughter timeless. Strength in seasons turn not unchanging rock. but river carving canyons. Love's persistent flow. Lies long buried. Truths thriving. Wild heart's home. Home's hearth warmed through Elias's kindergarten leap. Backpack slung proud. Anthony and Jake walking him gateside. Waves lingering till he vanished in crowd. Our boys flying. Jake said. Voice thick. Anthony nodding. Empty nest twinge early but sweet. Evenings adjusted, no bedtime battles. More couple time. Wine tastings. Trail runs. Intimacy reignited, slow burn. Haven thrived. Mustang program waitlisted. Anthony publishing articles on ecotherapy for queer mental health. Citations rolling. Collaboration with Jake, deep in joint papers on conservation's role in identity healing. Conferences buzzing their duo dynamic. Harlan's remarriage anniversary bash small. Backyard potluck. His wife, Ellen, warm pie server. Eyes kind on Anthony. He's softer now. She confided. And he saw it, Harlan dancing clumsy with her. Elias tugging for turns. Toast raised. To second chances. Clinks echoed. Past's poison diluted. Fall brought Elias's school play tree in giving tree. Lines memorized fierce. Front row. Family cheering loudest. Harlan slipping him wildflower post curtain for the star. Anthony's throat closed. Full circle tangible. Winter grant secured Haven's education wing. Classrooms for year-round programs. Anthony keynote funders gala. Elias ring-bearing flowers. Crowd ing. Spring floods again. But prepared levees held. Community spirit surging. Elias helped sandbag. Muddy hero. Jake hosing him down later. Giggles galore. Summer road trip southwest. Canyons red rock wonders. Elias awed by stars. Anthony tracing constellations' tails. That's Orion Hunter like Grandpa. Pointing Harlan's way. Integration seamless. Fall book release. Elias co-author, credit for doodles. Launch party kid-friendly chaos. Reviews glowed. A testament to love's rebuild. Winter holidays. Elias's elf antics. Harlan as Santa convincing. Beard itchy, but eyes twinkling. Spring garden bloom. Elias's sunflowers towering. See. Dad. Grew big. Summer internships evolved. Elias shadowing big kids. Anthony mentoring. Legacy planting. Fall parent-teacher glow. Elias thriving. Social butterfly wings spread. Winter's hush. Family puzzles by fire. Jake's whisper, grateful every day. Strength as tapestry threads of trial woven joy. Patterns emerging beauty. From abandonment's tear. Fabric whole. Love's loom eternal. Eternals weave tightened as Elias hit double digits. Lanky limbs and questions endless. Anthony fielding why two dads. With stories simplified loves, shape boundless. School dances loomed. Jake teaching two-step awkward. Anthony blushing memories of his own hidden longings. Find your rhythm. He advised. Elias rolling eyes but hugging tight. Haven's 10th anniversary gala starlet. Donors and alums toasting. Anthony's speech weaving origins to now. From one lost boy to Haven for many. Jake's arm around waist. Elias MCNG proud. Harlan toasting quiet. You built what I broke. Fall tour international Toronto pride. Anthony paneling resilience. Jake photographing. Elias FaceTiming homework woes. Jet lag bridged by calls. Home anchor strong. Winter storm power outage. Family fort building. Stories by Lantern Harlan's softened yarns of youth. Elias wrapped. Spring college fairs for Mia's firm. Elias tagging. Dreaming vet paths like Jake. Summer wolf pack sighting at Haven. Elias tracking prints. Papa's wolves. Excitement pure. Fall elections. Anthony endorsing inclusive candidates. Rallies with Elias sign waving. Winter holidays. Elias's first crush confessed shy. Anthony and Jake guiding gentle. Heart knows best. Spring retreat expansion. Eco dorms rising. Elias groundbreaking with golden shovel. Summer family canoe trip Green River. Rapids whoops. Elias paddling fierce. Fall book 4. Echoes of the Wild. Elias illustrating covers. Family affair. Winter's end. Harlan's health steady. Checkups routine. Ellen's care steady. Strengths echo chamber past voices harmonious now. Love's chorus amplifying. Lies silenced. Truths singing. Wild legacy unbound. In twilight years. Anthony reflected porch swing. Jake beside. Elias grown visiting with partner. Grandkids tumbling. Harlan gone peaceful. Legacy redeemed in laughter's legacy. From wild abandonment. Empire of empathy built destroyed lies birthed enduring light.